Hello and welcome back. This is the second video in the social anxiety series. Now, if you haven't seen the first one yet, I would definitely recommend watching it because this whole thing will make much more sense if you watch the videos in the correct order. Today, we will be discussing all the various situations that may cause social anxiety. But before we move on to the main point, I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about something that I've said in the previous video. So I've said that introversion is something you're born with and it is a character trait. Now, a couple of people argued that this was not something you're born with and it was not a character trait. It's rather a personality trait. So I backtracked. I decided to do a little bit more research, and it turned out that I was correct when I said that introversion is something you're born with, because you cannot choose whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. However, it's not a character trait, it's a personality trait. So long story short, personality traits are something you are born with and you cannot change it. You cannot choose, as I've said, to be an introvert or an extrovert. You don't learn to be an extrovert or an introvert. And character traits is something you learn, mostly when you are a child. However, as far as I know, you can change your character traits. It takes a lot of work to change them, but they are changeable. So once again, introversion is something you're born with, but it's not a character trait, it's a personality trait. Okay, so now that we've got this out of the way, we can move on to the main point. And thank you so much, thumbs up to the person who pointed out that it's not a character trait, it's a personality trait. Thank you very much. Just, remember that I want this series to be as scientifically accurate as it can be. So if you ever notice any mistakes, feel free to point them out. Okay, so now finally moving on. As I've mentioned before, social anxiety doesn't manifest itself only when you have to interact with someone. Social anxiety can become an issue even if you don't really have to say a single word. The list of social situations that cause anxiety is pretty much endless because obviously it changes from person to person. So I just want to attempt listing at least 40 situations that might cause anxiety based on my own experience. So let's just move on. Eating in front of other people or in public places. Public speaking, entering a room full of people, typing or writing in front of others, and for that matter, performing any other activities in front of others. Having to perform activities that are new to you and you don't really have the knowledge on how to act in a given situation. So for example, when you are in a different city or a different country and you get on the bus and you have to validate the ticket or you have to open the door, but you don't know how to do it. So this situation might cause anxiety, social anxiety, because you feel as though people all around you are watching you and they are just waiting for you to make a mistake. And basically, just because you don't know how to do something, you think that they will all automatically laugh at you. Standing up in a room full of people, when you have to throw something into the bin, or when you have to leave the room, even if you really have to go to the bathroom, to the restroom really bad. Speaking in a different language, especially when you're talking to a native speaker, so that you know that they will probably pick up all of the tiniest mistakes you might make. Talking to authority figures, going to the gym, going on a date, talking to new people, talking to people you are attracted to. Asking for help in a shop. So for example, asking for a different size of a clothing item, ordering food at a restaurant or ordering drinks at a bar, answering the phone even if you know who's calling, making phone calls, buying at shops with no self-service, going to the post office, having to take care of any sort of official stuff. So situations that involve, going to the bank, for example, basically anything bureaucracy related. Going to the library, especially when it's big and it's new. Joining a group of people or a conversation. So basically, as an example, you arrive at a meeting and there's already a group of people standing together. So just standing at a distance feels extremely awkward, but joining them feels even more awkward. So you're just stuck in an extremely distressing situation. Asking someone to move on a bench even when you feel as though you're about to pass out or you're feeling extremely weak and you really need to sit down. Starting a conversation first. If you have social anxiety, you pretty much never do it because you don't want to be a burden, you don't want to be annoying, and you generally assume that people don't really want to talk to you at all. Speaking up in a class or in a meeting, getting called to the board. I don't know if that's how you say this in English, but yeah, basically, I think you know what I mean. That obviously that happens, especially when you're still in school. Job interviews, all kinds of small talk, especially at a hair or a beauty salon. Using public restrooms, or for that matter, using bathrooms in an apartment when you know that someone is outside the door and might actually hear you do your thing. Meeting your neighbors in the hallway. So people with social anxiety will, most of the time, they will just, if they hear someone outside the door, they will just wait before their neighbors leave. Taking the lift when someone's in it. Keeping eye contact. Standing up in a film theatre when you really have to switch places because you're sitting too far or too close to the screen and you just can't see very well. Doing anything you know you're bad at in front of others. So for me, that's singing and bowling, which is a very strange mix, I know. Having to find a partner in groups, so it can be a business meeting or it could be in class. Going abroad because everything is new and you can't really enjoy yourself because social anxiety just keeps following you around. Going on live TV, which I know doesn't really happen to many people, but it happened to me and obviously I was extremely nervous. However, when you watch that video, you can't really tell. I look so calm. However, I was extremely defensive. So basically, I had so much more to say, but instead of doing that, I just, when I got a question, when someone asked me a question, I would just say 2 or 3 sentences, and then I would stop, because I thought that the less I talk, the less probable it is that I will make a mistake and say something stupid on live TV. Working with professionals when you know they already went through all of it and they know what they are doing. So for me, that would be directing on a real film set. I'm guessing that all of the people on a real film set would already have some experience and they would know what they are doing. And as you probably know, being a director equals being in the center of attention. So that's an extremely stressful situation. But I really am hoping that I will have an opportunity to tackle it one day. Checking in at a hotel, making appointments, especially on the phone, doing anything that's spontaneous, so you didn't really have the time to fully plan it. So these are all the situations that come to mind, and I'm afraid that they are all based on my private experience. So as you can probably tell, my social anxiety was quite severe. Basically every single social situation I could think of. And for so many years, so many years, I thought I was just extremely shy. And that is the way it's supposed to be. It was such a relief when I realized that it's got a name and that it's social anxiety and that it can be cured through therapy. I'm sure that there are more examples because my social anxiety always was and still is a little bit mainly based in real life. I don't really get that anxious when I'm online. Being online doesn't really stress me out that much because I feel like I have all the time in the world to edit out all of the mistakes, and that whatever I post online is highly filtered. There's very little room for error when you are online. In real life though, when I do something stupid or say something stupid in front of other people, there is no way I can take that back. I can't really edit that out, which adds so much anxiety to the equation. And I think it's the third time, or maybe even the fourth time, that I am explaining this. But I keep getting questions about how is it possible that someone with social anxiety can be online and can put herself out there. And yeah, basically, I feel like I have to explain this at every opportunity. However, there are people who experience distress even when they are online and even when they are posting as anonymous. On the other hand, there might be people out there whose social anxiety is not even half as severe as mine was, okay? And they still might get diagnosed with social anxiety. You don't have to experience anxiety in all of the situations I've mentioned, all of the situations I've listed. Just because you don't experience social anxiety or distress in all of the situations does not mean you don't suffer from social anxiety. So please keep that in mind. It is a spectrum. This is why it is so important to see a specialist, so that someone who knows what they are doing can properly diagnose you and tell you whether you're just shy or whether you are just an introvert or whether you really have social anxiety. To end this video, I've noticed there are some individuals struggling with mental health issues who continuously go on about how much worse off they are in regards to the severity of their symptoms and how much easier others have it. Let's get one thing straight. It's a spectrum, so just because you have more problems than others do, it doesn't mean that the struggles of other people are irrelevant. You're not the one to decide whether someone suffers from a mental disorder or not. If you want to have some fun bidding, go win yourself a painting, because mental health is not an auction. So let's stop romanticizing mental health issues and let's just stick together, shall we? And on that note, I will end this video. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram. I post a little bit more often there. And yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye.